Welcome back to the channel. I'm Squall. I really don't know why I'm making this. Well, I do know why I'm making this. I just watched the first episode of the newest Sentai installment at the time of this video, and that is Donbrothers. I don't know what the full title is. I don't actually care what the full title is because who honestly cares? But yeah, no, Super Sentai is my jam. It's been my jam for quite a while now. And I always get super excited whenever a new episode of a season's coming out. Even if I don't plan to watch that season, I still want to watch, the first episode. I still want to see how they're going to kind of develop everything and how they kind of, set everything up, because that first episode is really important. That's really what's going to draw your viewer in. That's really going to kind of, set the precedence for the entire season. So instead of, like I said, talking about Donbrothers, I want to compare and contrast it to every other Sentai first episode of the last 20 years. Otherwise, this video would be way too long. So I went ahead and I had been seeing a lot of people make tiers, and I made a tier maker, whatever you call it, for the first episodes of the last 20 years of Super Sentai. If this is your first video on this channel, welcome, and make sure that you are not subscribed. If you look down below and it says that you're subscribed, just quickly unsubscribe. I want to, stop making videos for this channel. So if you unsubscribe, that's gonna help me out. Of course, I'm just kidding. Subscribe or do whatever you do on YouTube. Do they still like videos? Is that still a thing? Let's do this as quickly as I possibly can and still make it entertaining and enjoyable for you. I know I'm gonna have to save a lot of this in editing, but we have our very first episode, which is Abba Ranger. And if you have not seen Abba Ranger, it was adapted into Dino Thunder. I mean, you guys already know this. You are on this channel for Tokusatsu, so you probably are pretty lonely.
What the f... I'll show him.
And you've probably already seen all of these and you know everything, so I don't know why I always bother to say that. You guys, Now, Abba Ranger I really liked because it started off with our fourth Ranger, since it's a 3-starter, and really just kind of jumps into the action, and the biggest thing I can remember from it is that it did not have the intro, which I love when the first and last episodes don't do that, but they can still incorporate the song into it. And so they did that with like a little fight, and I love these dinosaurs finding partners and kind of like speaking to them and reaching out to these 3 different people and sort of them all coming together. And I really love the idea of this hero from the dinosaur realm, whatever it's called. You guys are going to correct me in the comments anyway. Coming to Earth and finding this like super young girl and this super old man to be like this trio, and then the real heroes step in. I love it. I think Abba Ranger is a really strong intro. I am probably going to put it in the A for Abba Ranger. But it's a really good one. It's really strong. I've actually never sat through the whole series, funny enough. I don't think it was subbed by anyone other than TV Nihon when I was first getting in, and I watched a bunch of these. And I've already, at that point, suffered through enough of TV Nihon that I just said, nope, I don't even care. I'm good. I'll watch the first episode, maybe a few after that. I feel like I also bought the DVD of this. Like, I bought a Malaysian DVD set of Abba Ranger, and it had 2 disc 2s and no disc 3, and so I couldn't even finish it. I remember now. Moving on to Hurricaneger, another 3-first start for the red, blue, and yellow. Hurricaneger, it's fun. It's very much what you would expect. It really kind of dives into that ninja aesthetic. It's got the talking guinea pig master. It really was a solid, but it didn't do anything too crazy. It wasn't super memorable. I think it even teases at the end the Goei Riders, whatever the f they're called, and so that was cool. But like, it didn't do a whole lot. It really is a series that gets going, and once it gets going, it gets really fun. So I'm gonna put that one maybe in the C for Canger. So moving into Deca Ranger was a series that a lot of people recommended to me when I first got into Sentai on like the forums and like Facebook, and I didn't really like Deca Ranger a whole lot. I don't know what it is. I just it didn't really ever connect with me. Like I finished it, I watched it in college, and I don't know, it just didn't really ever connect with me. And if I'm honest, I don't fully remember the first episode. So I probably gonna get a lot of shit for this, but I'm gonna put it in the F. And one of the things I kind of wanted to do with this, because I've watched a few other people's tier videos, and they're very, I don't know what it is. People are very, like, generous with their rankings, and they put a lot of things that higher up than they don't, because they don't want to put anything like lower, you know, like they don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, they don't want to get flack. And I understand that, but I honestly also don't give a And I actually sat down and like thought of this idea and like how to compare and contrast every single one of these with one another, and kind of doing that in a tier list. And I told myself, I've watched a bunch of these first episodes multiple times. I've seen Deca Rangers twice. I can't really tell you everything that happened in it, other than in that picture, you know, Bon Bon is crazy and he drives through a wedding chapel, and that's an amazing opening, but I can't remember the rest of it for the life of me. So that is why I'm putting it as low as I do. Moving on to Maji Ranger. Maji Ranger had a very strong opening. It was very, obviously magic, and more so family values. But again, it didn't really do anything too crazy, too something that breaks the mold. So I'm gonna put that one in a C as well. I want to put it in F because it's family, but it's better than the F. I remember things from it other than, you know, Deca Ranger. Like I remember he's trying to get like a balloon for a little kid, and they're like, that's, oh my god, that's our idiot brother, he's on TV. You know, I remember like all of them running off to fight, and him being like the hero, like the fifth one that has to kind of unite the family. Like it's good, but it's not like amazing. It's not groundbreaking. Like when you compare it with like Abba Ranger, it's nowhere close. So moving into Bokenger, I can't say enough about it. I think Bokenger is such a fantastic season that is so slept on. It's got such a good transformation device. It's got a really good cast of characters. And the best thing that Bokenger does is it has multiple enemy factions. So like in the intro, almost every week, the intro changes to show who kind of, you know, are these villains that are in the show right now. And they come in, they come out, and the best thing that Bokenger does is it doesn't kind of pussyfoot around, right, with who these heroes are going to be. It literally jumps you into an adventure. It's not the first one, you know, it just jumps you straight into it, and you kind of have to get up to speed that, you know, even within this team, there's kind of, you know, like factions. There's, you know, black and yellow are kind of on one side. Everybody sort of listens to red, you know, blue and pink. And it's fascinating. It's such a good opening. It's so, I would almost say perfect. Like it's fantastic. Like even like the commercial cliffhanger. I remember the first time I saw it, like I actually gasped. Like I was like, oh, what's going on? You know, like it's that good. I'm putting it up in S. I'm sorry. I don't care who wants to come at me. I don't agree that the rest of the series holds up to that S that it gets, but this is the first episode, and in ranking of the first episodes, it doesn't belong anywhere else. Like honestly, it's so fantastic. It's such a good opening, and I can't go on more about it. And for everybody else that's, you know, like probably upset down there in the comments, I'm not talking about Operation Overdrive. I'm not talking about any of the Power Rangers. This is just straight up the Sentai, and straight up the Sentai? What the f does that mean? Geki Ranger. This was my first Super Sentai. This was the very first episode of Super Sentai I have ever seen, and I believe out of every single one here, it's the one I've seen the most, maybe next to Shinkenger, or Gokaiger. I guess I showed Gokaiger a lot to a lot of people to try to get them in. But Geki Ranger, it's so fun. It drops you in, literally. He's like wrestling around with pandas. It's a good time. And it just kind of sort of like Bokenger, it already established, you know, like we already have two heroes, and he kind of has to come in and make his way. And I think the dynamic of everything, it works so well, and it's such a fun series that kind of gets you in there. But it's also a slow burner series, which I think Sentai being episodic and being, you know, every week having a monster of the week, it can become a little bit of a grind, and it is a slow burn, but Geki Ranger definitely continuously ramps itself up. And from the first episode, it's great. I'm gonna put it in B, just because I'm looking at what I've already put here, and I think, like, in my head, Aba Ranger is a much more prominent, stronger opening, but Geki Ranger is still really, really good. I don't think it's on the same level, so that's why we're gonna put it B. Go Ranger, we got another 3-fer here. We got Geki Ranger, Go Ranger, Aba Ranger, Hurricaneger. There is so much threesome fun action happening in that span of time. But Go Ranger is another series that I think is severely, criminally under-talked about. The ending is fantastic. Like, there's just so much that went on with this series that people, I think, were turned off, kind of like with Tokyuger, by how overtly goofy it is and how not serious the characters are. But I mean, this episode is so good. You know, you got these 3 heroes who, kind of like Bokenger, it's just sort of in the middle of it, and we follow these other 2 characters who, because the intro of the first episode spoils it, we know are going to become green and black to make the full team of 5. But this first episode is really good, and I would give it a little bit higher if I put episode 1 and 2 together, because I think episode 2 of Go Ranger is just so wonderful. Like, it could make it, you know, even into the A. Go Ranger's opening is great. The first episode is great, but that second episode really sort of sends it home. You know, it really cements how good of a series and how kind of sneakily, you know, character driven it is. But I'm gonna put that one in C. All right, here we are. We are at Shinkenger. I'm not even gonna talk about it. It's an S. It's an S for me, dog. Shinkenger, it was so good. It's such a good first and second episode, but again, we're not talking about the second episode, that they released director's cuts of these episodes. So if you don't know, like, there's so much more that goes into almost every single episode, and they have to whittle it down to meet the time requirement for commercials and everything. And Shinkenger was so good that they released a DVD director's cut of the first 2 episodes. And if you haven't seen the first episode, I implore you to watch the first episode of Shinkenger. It's gonna hook you, it's gonna immediately get you into the series. You're gonna wanna watch everything. But if you have seen it and you haven't seen the director's cut, please go find that somewhere. It's amazing, it's fantastic. It showcases who these characters are without hitting you over the head. It doesn't treat you like you're stupid, you know? It doesn't do the normal Sentai thing where, you know, it has to be quirky. It really just immediately you get a sense of every single character, and it's such an epitome of what a team is, you know, like in Sentai. And this is picture perfect, like one of the best teams that Sentai's ever had. And that first episode immediately endears you to all of them immediately. But it's just so good. It's so structured well, and it's so fantastic. Like, the very first scene is the opening song with a fight of just the Red Ranger kicking ass. He can do all this on his own, but he can't anymore, and he's got to call upon the team. Chef's kiss. It's brilliant. It's amazing. This and Bokenger are top tier. Like, it's hard to beat these 2 in mind, and I hope a lot of your other people watching's minds. I don't know what I'm saying right now. Moving into Gosager. Now, Gosager, coming off the tails of Shinkenger, had a lot to live up to, and I feel like that first episode really did a lot of cool stuff. Like, if you've seen it, spoiler, there is time travel involved that is, you know, you can see it in this first episode, but you don't know about it until, like, you know, 20, 30 episodes in, and I think they completely sort of botched that. They sort of, you know, shit the bed. And the first episode's interesting because it's, you know, like, weeks after this event happened, and everybody's kind of on their own sort of, like, team, and then they all have to come together, and it's not amazing. It really doesn't do a whole lot, and I feel like the beats that they did in this, they did 10 times better the next year. So I'm gonna put Gosager down in F. And that's not me hating on Gosager. That's not me, you know, trying to throw shade at Gosager, because I really do like Gosager. I think it's a fun season. I think it's got some interesting things that it does, and things that happen in it that have helped future seasons of Sentai, which I'm always appreciative and I'm always looking out for. But that first episode, it doesn't really do a whole lot, you know. Moving into the one that's probably everybody's favorite, it is Gokaiger. Gokaiger, you've seen it. Of course you've seen it. It starts off with the Legendary War. It starts off with literally every single Super Sentai hero and heroine fighting together side by side against this Zangyark army that's, you know, trying to infiltrate Earth. It's so good. Like, it immediately got my college roommates who weren't really into Toku at the time to see that and be like, yo, shit. And then literally the next scene after the intro is, you know, the Megazord like running on the moon, you know, like going through all these things. Like, it's so cool. It's everything that they did during that year. It was so great, but we don't fully get a sense of the characters. Like, we obviously like them. We can kind of tell what type of character they're going to be, and it's really, really good. And I just feel like that first episode, half of it is so good, and then the other half, you know, because it's a show that really does rely week to week on who they're talking about, who the Sentai alum is, what the jokes are going to be, that the other half doesn't really match up to it. And I mean, oh, I know I'm gonna get so much for this. I do love their very first transformation. I do love all of that, and I like the gimmicks that they used for the first time here, transforming into other heroes. It all works wonderful, but it's just few and far between. Like, it doesn't have the steady rhythm that I feel like Bokenger's or Shinkenger's does, but I still think it's astronomically high. Like, I would put it in between S and A if I could. So I'm just gonna put it in A because I don't feel it's up to those level of the other two. Man, I see why everyone makes these types of videos. I feel powerful. I love this. Moving into Go Buster. Go Buster is, it's amazing. It's a great opening. I love just everything that they did with the backstory, with, you know, sort of the countdown. As you can see, like in this image, like I loved where they had, you know, two different planes of, you know, battle in the foreground and in the background. It's amazing. It's such a strong first, you know, opening. But if I consider it like to like Go Kaiger or Abba Ranger, I really think it's gonna be probably B for Buster. Kyoryuja. I guess I always say it wrong. I hate this season, if I'm honest. I loved this first episode. I thought this first episode was phenomenal. I really liked the idea of it being, it's kind of like Geki Ranger, but I liked it better when Geki Ranger did it, where we find this hero on an island and then, you know, we gotta bring him to this place and, but I love the idea that they're all individual heroes that have to be on a team, and so they didn't all know each other's identities. And of course, King, being an absolute dumbass, shows everybody who he is at the end of the episode, which is supposed to be kind of like the secret, and it's a fun reveal. And I was like, oh, this season's gonna be so good because we might even have a character that we don't learn the identity of for weeks. And then literally the next time on, it was like, hey, Blue and Pink are teaming up with King. I don't even remember their names. C for Gabareg Crunch or whatever they say in the episode. ToQger. I love this season. But I will agree that it doesn't have the greatest first episode, but it does a lot of things that make you interested and should get you to watch more. Like, it has like the color swap, it has, you know, like the mystery of everything. It's very solid, and it's very persistent in the rhythm that it goes through, which a lot of these episodes don't have, especially the newer Sentai. It feels like everything's really rushed, but I feel like ToQger perfected that sort of ease. And I'm gonna put it just a little bit higher because I'm thinking of like Go-Onger and Kyoryuger, and I'm like, ToQger does have a better opening. It's really good, but it's not amazing. You know, it's not amazing because the tier is labeled A. Ninja. I liked it. I think it's a good first episode. The rest of the show is a hot mess. I like the idea of them all being family, but it's such a boring first episode when compared to everything else that it's going down an F. I would put it lower if I could. Zyuohger! Yes, this is hands down one of the stronger openings of the last 20 years. Like, this is a very good first episode. I feel like the pacing is a little bit off. Like, this is the first one that I feel like the pacing gets a little derailed by having, you know, Yamato with the Jumans and just everything kind of leading up to that. It feels like it doesn't have any like room to breathe, and they definitely fix that as the series goes along, like where they can sprinkle things in throughout. But I feel like they're trying to cram too much into this first episode. That scene with like the rabbits running through the forest on fire. But I don't think it's that strong. I feel like the show definitely continues up and it doesn't relent, which is very rare for Sentai. But I think it's a very strong mid compared to everything else here. Q Ranger, I was so excited for the expansive roster. Just so much that I saw going into this just pointed that this was going to be such a fun show, and the first episode did not let me down. Like the first episode, it's fantastic. It's super fun. You don't even get the full team, which is great because you know that there's going to be more based upon the intro. It's just such a fun, great episode, and I love that it's both red focused and blue focused, with Blue kind of accepting that this is his he's gonna be hero. I might even put it up towards A. I'm gonna do it. It's A for me. I'm thinking of it compared to like Tokyuger and Zyuohger, and I like it. It's such a better intro to the show for me than these other ones. It's such a good, strong first episode on its own. If you hate me, you hate me. You know, you can always just close the video out. You probably already have. I'm probably just talking to myself and like 2 of my patrons right now. Hi. Lupat versus... Oh wait. I said that wrong. Lupat is the shortened version. Lupin Ranger versus Pato Ranger. I wanted this show to be so much more than it is, but just looking at the first episode, it's got some pacing problems because it's definitely trying to juggle 2 themes at once. It's trying to juggle 6 characters, where I feel like if the first episode was just focused on the Lupin Rangers, and then you introduce the Pato Rangers at the end, that would have been much stronger. That's probably what happened. I've only seen it a few times. I'm gonna look it up real quick. Nope, I looked it up. Okay, so they do have the Pato Rangers in the first episode. It would have been so good if the whole first episode would have just been Lupin Ranger, right? And then the very end, you have the Pato Rangers. You introduce them like, these are the people that are going to be stopping you every week. It would have been cool to have like a Lupin Ranger week, and then the next week a Pato Ranger week. And it kind of just goes back and forth where it could go over the same things that happened last week, but we see it from a different perspective. That would have made the show a little bit better. And I think the first episode, it's fun. I like a lot of the stunt work they do, and it's a strong first episode. Like when I consider it, looking at everything in C, I think it's better than C. So I'm gonna put it in B. Baby. All right, here we are with the last 4. Ooh, we only got 4 left. All right. Okay, so with Ryusoulger, this is a fantastic opening. It's got both double reds, double pinks, double blues. It's like the 3 for Sentai, but like cranked up to 11, right? It's so good. It's so just jarringly different too. Like it's Sentai that you've come to expect, but it's so much more than that too. It's so good. I'm putting it just up an A. I don't think it's on that S tier. I think the rest of the show kind of pushes it and elevates it for me personally higher. But that first episode, I went back and rewatched that so many times because I was so just amazed by what they did and how they set the stage for the rest of the show. And I would go back and just rewatch that first episode as I was watching it through all the time. Like it's that fun. Kira Major. So this one, there's technically 2 first episodes. There's episode 0 and then there's episode 1. And I think they're both equally boring. Episode 0 is more fun because we get to, we get a little bit more time to sort of see everybody around that's going to be on the team because they kind of get shadowed by Red throughout the entire run. So that was fun, but I'm going to put episode 1 itself, which is all about Kira Major Red coming into the group. Oh, people are going to hate this. I think it's such a boring first episode. I love a lot of the episodes in the series, but rewatching it with Lauren for Tokusatsu Girlfriend, I was super bored. That was like my 3rd time watching it because I watched it when it aired. I watched it to do like some YouTube recaps before Toei, copyright stroke everything on that. And then I watched it again with her and I was just so bored. There's a lot of fun parts of it, like with what's his name, Juru, but I don't know. I don't think Kira Major was my favorite in that first episode. Ugh. Now we're into Zenkaiger. So we're almost there. We're almost to the end. Zenkaiger just finished Lovely show. I've been seeing so much love for this that I definitely want to make some time to go back and finally catch up and finish it. That's one thing I'm looking forward to, and it's because of that first episode. But I think it was some of the later episodes that sort of turned me off to tuning in every week, as you might say. But that first episode was so good. It had very good pacing for the most part between sort of what was happening with the gears, what was happening with the planets, what was happening with all of these Kikanoids, is that what they're called, that were invading and kind of like now present in the world, and just everything sort of leading up to our main character. I don't even remember his name. I know he's Zenkaiger, but I don't remember his human name. But like that with Juron, is it Juron? It's such a good, fun, strong episode. It's super funny throughout, and it definitely makes you want to check out and kind of jump into more. But it ultimately, looking at like some of these other ones, I'm gonna have to put it in B. I would put it in between B and A if I could. Now that we're getting to the end, this is getting a little bit harder. I'm gonna get so much flack for this. People are probably gonna be clipping, several things out of this to complain on Twitter about. Finally, we are here at Donbrothers, the dawn of the new brothers. And I watched this yesterday. It just dropped, and I watched it again this morning today. So I saw it twice just because I wanted to be very accurate with how I felt about it. Because my first time watching, I felt that the pacing was very, very out of whack. And watching it the second time, I was absolutely right. They're trying to cram way too much into this first episode, and that's okay because I am invested and I want to see what's going to happen more, but that doesn't make it a great first episode if you can't then watch the next episode right away. You got to wait for the next week, and there's so much good about this that I love. Like, I love our main character's focus basically being our Yellow, a manga artist who is going through all these life problems, and just how they introduce the villain, how they introduce, her, which is totally just a ripoff of the movie They Live from, I believe it's 1988. And there's so much that I did like about it, but I also am just so incredibly turned off by how much copious amounts of CGI they use and how they try to stitch scenes together. And I understand that it probably saves them a lot of money, which I'm all for that. If people still enjoy the show, they do. Looking at these Sentai where CGI was used in fun ways, like looking at the Go Buster one, like obviously you can't stage something like that, but they kind of did too, like where they had, the split levels. They had everything going on in the foreground, and then they had everything going on in the background. And obviously that shot right there is CGI. It's not the whole entire show. Like, that was my other problem with Zenkaiger, is their cockpit is completely CGI. Same with the Donbrothers here. And like when he showed up like on his bike, I just don't like seeing something that looks that low quality, because when it comes to practical effects, when it comes to like actual tokusatsu, even if it looks cheap, it looks 10 times better than something that's done badly, poorly, whatever in CGI. And even if it costs, like the same amount, I would always want to see a realistic, practical shot of that, for lack of a better word, right? And I think that's my biggest problem with Donbrothers, is I really liked a lot of the fights that they did. Like when Red shows up and when he's actually fighting, it looked fantastic. But then we have like, the cockpit, the scenes on the bike, there's just so much here that just, for me, wasn't my personal jam. But I did like a lot of the stuff they did. And because of that, I'm going to put it at a solid C. So that is my tier list. That is how I would rank every single first episode of Super Sentai. And if you haven't watched Super Sentai, I implore you to pick from this list. Just one of the most fun things that I used to do in high school was I would watch all of the intros of Super Sentai, and just based on the intro, I would be like, I want to watch this one next. But it was so fun to see how similar a lot of these are, how different they are, and how much better some are doing sort of the same gimmicks. And I think that this list is pretty good. Like, I don't think I would change anything on here. I think this is a pretty astute first episode. If I was going to do the whole series, of course it would be different, but this is just the first episode, and if you haven't seen it, watch Bo Kendra's first episode. It's great. Watch Shin Kendra's director's cut. It's amazing. And everything else in A tier is totally worth your time if you haven't seen it as well. But again, everything, I would say everything in this, except for F tier, is definitely worth your time. If you're just gonna watch a first episode. But yeah, what would you put in your S tier? What is your favorite Super Sentai first episodes? I want to see that. I want to know what you would put in your S tier from this list in the comments down below. But that's all that I have. I know I've been doing a lot of Doctor Who stuff on this channel, and I'm going to continue to do stuff like that. I think I'm going to maybe, you know, move more into sort of analysis or essay type videos for ideas and themes that I want to cover in that show. And who knows, like this, from time to time I may do some more tokusatsu videos if the feel should grab me. I don't know. That's all that I have. I'll see you all on the next video. Bye.